Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us again today. Today we're doing something a little different. We're not doing major appliance, we're doing small appliance today. We've got a juicer that was dropped off to us that apparently isn't working. Haven't taken it apart yet, so you're going to join me with that. Sarah's not here with me today, but she is in the background with us, and she's actually doing mission control. She's running the live from her location, and yeah, so we're going to take this juicer apart, see if we can figure out what's wrong, whether that's easy or hard, and whether we have to order parts or something we just fix. And as well, of course, during the lives, most of you know that you have any questions regarding your appliances, large, small, outdoor equipment, ask away and we'll see if we can give you some help and how to answer your question and maybe make it work better. Okay, well, Sarah, let's see if we can't start on this juicer. We'll show that it doesn't work, unless it makes a liar out of me. And should be a magic switch. And that is running right now. Interesting. So, according to the customer, it wasn't. So there's something that is either loose or was jammed up. So we're going to take it apart anyway, just to make sure that there's nothing that's floating around in there that could jam it up and stop it from working, or there's not a loose or burnt connection. So we'll go through that together and see what we can find out. Alrighty. Get this out of the way. There you go. Okay, of course, anytime we're going to take something apart that requires electricity, we're going to unplug it, keep ourselves safe. Now, let's get the main components out of the way. So we're just going to pop the top off so we can see what's going on here. Now, juicers are not a product that, for most of my career, have not spent a lot of time with. They became more popular when I was out doing the major appliances. So we're going to take this little guy apart. Now to do that, we're going to have to remove the cutting blade or the grinding blade. And that's a special tool, of course, that comes with the machine. And it's just a matter of popping that into place and loosening that off. Now, this has some fairly sharp little teeth, so you just want to be careful if you've never worked with one before. Those are fairly sharp, so if it's your first time, you're not real comfortable, gloves are a good idea. So we'll take the cutter out. Take the filter strainer out of place. That'll allow us to lift this collar off. And now we're down to the main motor drive unit. There's the drive section that actually rotates the cutter head. So the only real access I can see on this is going to be from the bottom. Now, I don't have a juicer at home that I use, but I have many acquaintances that make good use of them and love having their juicer. So for those of you out there who have one, you know what I'm talking about. Now, these are not an inexpensive item, and like anything else that man makes and requires electricity and moving parts, is subject to failure. Things do go wrong. Now, the nice thing is, if there is something that goes wrong, they're not that hard to fix. And if you do need parts for your machine, typically you can easily find what you're looking for on our website. So you'll be able to see breakdowns, some troubleshooting advice, and of course your parts. And if you do see a part that you feel you need for your machine, it's just a matter of putting it through, clicking on it, checking your price and availability, and you can actually arrange to have it sent right to your home. And that was a screw that just went flying. Excuse me for 1 second. There we go. Let's put flying screws in there. enough to loosen everything off. That one's loose and comes out. This screwdriver's magnetized, so it makes it a little easier to pop these out. Looks like we should be good. That allows the bottom cover to come off. Now, there's what's inside. Pop that screw. Oh, it's going to stay there. Alrighty, so nice little electric motor. Has a capacitor. That's this guy here. And looks like it. Get our locking lever out of the way. Now there is a little micro switch right here. If you can see that, it's just a single pole, single throw switch, and that looks like it's designed to be operated by this lever. So let's have a look and see if that's the case. Because there's a good possibility that that little switch stuck. All right, definitely goes this way. So that had the rubber grip on it. Put that back to see if that makes up a difference. Okay, so when you latch it, it makes this handle press down in, and this little switch right here is activated. So this is a safety switch, so that the machine will not run if the lever isn't fully locked in place to hold the upper section in. So there's a very good chance that's the culprit. But we're going to check both switches and make sure that they're working. So just a basic multimeter. This is an analog with a needle sweep. Set it to continuity. So if I have a circuit to operate a switch, you close the switch or turn the switch to the on position. You should be able to get a circuit right through, and the result of that will be on the meter. We'll hear a bit of an audible tone, and we'll see the needle swing over to the other side, just like that. So if I turn a switch on, it should do this. When I turn the switch off, it should go back to showing that's nothing. So let me just check this on-off switch. I'm just going to pull the wires off it. Now there's the switch right here. If I can bring this up close enough so you can see it. Yeah, so it's right there. Okay, so I'm just going to take one lead and put it on the switch. I'm going to take my other lead, put it on the switch. So right now it's in the off position. I'm going to turn it on, and we get a response. So physically that switch is working fine. It's making the completed circuit. It's a little discolored just from usage, but it's I don't see anything that looks like it's a burn mark. So if the connections were loose, sometimes you'll get a situation where the electricity is basically sort of having to jump across just by a little bit of an air separation. Nothing that you'll typically notice, but because of that, the connections will heat up, and sometimes you'll see these blackened or even arced. And if that's the case, you'll probably need to replace the switch, and possibly even the wire that goes onto it may be melted or just disfigured from the heat and the arcing. But this one looks pretty good. So the other switch is that little guy right there. Bring that up, show it to you. So, and again, when the handle's rotated to the lock position, it presses down on that tab, and you might be able to even hear that switch making and breaking. So I can tell you the spring inside the switch is really quite strong. It has a lot of spring action, so it pushes open right away. It's good and solid and doesn't feel loose in any way. So let's check it out electrically. And I'm just going to pull the wires off that switch. In fact, maybe I'll take the screw out, take it right out so we can get a good look at it. Just the retainer, and we'll pop that out. So now there's that little switch. And again, looking at it, the color of it looks fine. I don't see any sign of any kind of the connection being loose. So I'm going to pull the wires off. There we go. Now, same process. Just going to take the multimeter, one lead on one terminal, one lead on the other, and I'm going to activate the switch manually. And no pressure on the switch, no circuit, it's open. When the switch is pressed down, again, we get the audible signal, and the meter needle swings over, showing full continuity. So this switch is working fine. The wiring's good. We have a capacitor here on the motor as well, so you can see it. That's that little black box. You can see that. So that's what gives the motor just a little bit of a jump start to get it going, especially when you have product sitting down on top of it, waiting to go. It means that motor's going to need that little bit of an oomph to get it going. So if you were to have one of these juicers and this capacitor was bad, you would find that it would be trying to start, and it just, like, it's confused as to which direction it wants to try and move in, or it's just barely moving, or it's just nudging. If that's the case, then it could very well just be the capacitor. So other than that, the only other thing that could have happened possibly is if the cord has a break in it. Electric cords take a lot of abuse in the way they're plugged in and yanked out. You know, there is the bad habit that most of us have done where we plug it in and then we want to unplug it, and maybe, you know, we're stretching to reach the cord, so instead of reaching it here and grabbing it and pulling the plug, we'll just go to grab the cord and give it a yank. Now that works, you know, it'll kind of unplug, but it does put a strain inside here. You do actually wind up stretching the cord. That creates a weak point, so it could actually be broken here. The other place that they'll tend to break is where it enters the machine. And again, you'll see a similar type strain relief. right here where the cord mounts. And that's so that the cord isn't constantly being bent close to the machine. Now, this, just like any other cord, if it's used a lot and it's flicked one way or the other way, this will become a weak spot. So what will happen over time, the inside the insulation wires will break. There'll be only one or two strands, so it may work for a while, but then eventually they'll just open up completely and you'll lose your circuit. You can usually tell if that's happened by if the machine doesn't work when it's plugged in and you wiggle the cord and it starts and stops and starts and stops, then you need to replace the cord. So everything looks pretty good. So I'm going to pop this back together and then we'll take a look and see how it's working, and perhaps the switch was just stuck. But I don't see anything in there. There's nothing, there's no rattling of anything loose inside the machine. There's no broken pieces. So let's stick it back together and try it again and see how it goes. Put our wires back on. Now with these switches just being 2-pole, it doesn't matter which way they go. If this had 3 wires going to the switch and it had 3 poles, then you would have to be aware as exactly where they came from and where they have to go. Slip that back into place. Bring our retainer in. So you can see there's not a whole lot to a juicer. This one just has a basic on and off. There's a few out there that have a fancier control dial, which may have like a timer included, or may have a bit of a touch board for turning it on and off, and you know, just some neat features you see. But this one's not a lot of accessories on it, so there's a lot less to break down. So that's still working. That's great. Now let's hook up our on-off switch again. Just going to push those wires back on. Now, if you're pulling these wires off of switch terminals or any kind of terminal and you go to put them back on, and they seem like they just easily slip on or they very easily slipped off, there should be some effort required to get those on or off. That means you've got a good tight connection. You're not going to get any burning or arcing or premature failures. If they're not, those terminals can just be, you can just take a pair of needle nose and you can just give them a slight squeeze with them. You don't want to come on and do it too hard. You don't want to close it right off or you won't be able to get it on. But just give it a little bit of a squeeze so that you have that good friction fit. Okay. So, got to remember to put the handle in before we snap this back together. So, handle goes in here, and it did have this little rubber bushing on the handle where the switch actuator is. It works as an insulator, and it also allows it to slide over that actuator on the switch so it doesn't catch or drag. Okay, we'll flip this guy over, putting him back into place. Now, one of the things I have to be careful of, let's see if I can show it. One, the handle needs to stay in place and we have to line up our base with it, which is easy enough, but we have to make sure our cord is in the right position. In other words, where that strain relief is, we got to make sure we get that back down into place. So that looks pretty good. So I think we can go ahead and put the screws in, and then we'll give it another test run. Now, if the motor was bad, we would definitely have to make a point to look that up, see what the price is, and then, you know, compare to what a new one is worth. But I find in most cases these appliances, those motors and switches are quite reasonable, and because you're doing it yourself, you're not paying any shop labor charges, and you can repair it yourself. If you buy the part, it comes with a year's warranty. If you buy it through us, then you're looking at what we call an OEM part, original equipment manufacturer, which means the people that built this and built the parts, the part we send you is the same part that the manufacturer uses. It may be a little more expensive than what you can find from other places online, but you know, in this world you don't get something for nothing. If you're able to get something that looks similar, but it's much less expensive, then you got to wonder what is it that's they left out of theirs that wasn't in the one that's an OEM. Will it last? Maybe, but what's been removed from it that they can sell it that much less? They're not worried about warranty, they're not worried about safety, they just want to sell something. So keep that in mind whenever you're looking for parts, that we only sell OEM parts. We don't want anybody buying a junk part, and we want the part to fit perfectly, work as it should, work to the same standards that the manufacturer built your item, and give you good service. And if there is a problem with it, and it can happen, everything man builds is subject to failure, and if it does, it's warranted for 365 days. You just make contact with us and we make the arrangements and we'll replace the part for you. Alrighty, let's put the rest of it back together. Okay, so if a fellow wasn't paying attention, or a person wasn't paying attention as to how this went on, we do have a drain sluice right here. So that looks about right. Okay. Put our filter basket back in. You're awful quiet today, Sarah. Are you staying out of trouble? Okay, so I've put in the grinding disc. I just brought it finger tight because I don't want to tear my fingers apart, because we have that tool in order to secure this. So we'll tighten that up so it's nice and tight. We can bring our container in. Pop our top on. Bring our lever up. That locks it. Now that's interesting. I can hear that. But I don't know if you're able to, if the mic can pick it up. I'll see if I can get my mic close enough that you can hear that. Because it's a quick, easy thing to be aware of. Remember that little micro switch that was there where the handle attaches? So we know the handle is operating it. I didn't hear that before. So I'm thinking maybe that was a good part of the problem. It was just stuck. So maybe this unit hasn't been used for a while. It's in pretty good condition. It's pretty clean. So maybe it's just sat, and like any of us, if we sit still for too long, we tend to stiffen up and a little harder to work. Okay, let's plug it back in. And we'll turn it on. So that's great. So let's just wiggle the cord, see if there was possibly any kind of connection issue there. Nope. Check the other end where it plugs in. No problem. On-off switch is working. Safety switch is working. So good news for the person that owns this. This machine is still going to work just fine. That safety switch was stuck in the off position, and by just taking it apart, we managed to free it up. That's pretty good. I'm just going to check to see how much power this uses. I've got, this is not something everybody has at home. Multimeters are pretty common to find in the toolbox, but this device not only measures voltage and continuity, it'll also tell you how much power it's drawing. So let's just see. Just got to clamp this on to one side of the cord, and it's drawing 2.2 amps. I'll stop it. Notice the motor's actually quite quiet. You're not hearing any squealing or grinding out of it. If the bearings start to go in those motors, you'll hear them getting a bit of a, oh, I know, it's almost like a grumble to them. You know, they just get a little tiny bit of a roar, or you start to hear a bit of a high-pitched whine, especially when the unit's slowing down after it's been running. As it starts to slow, you hear that bit of a high-pitched whine. That's the sign that your bearings are starting to go. Let's see, one gets again. There you go. Yeah, 2.2 amps. That's not a lot of current being drawn. This is, you know, for anybody who's looking to save power, for the amount of time you're running your juicer and the amount of power it draws, it's actually quite small. So it's a great tool to have in the kitchen for sure. Alrighty.
We should have made sure you had some oranges there with you, so you could have had a little treat at the end of the repair.
No, you know, now you're right. That would have been kind of cool to think about that. Maybe next time.
Yeah. It's
Maybe.
been a quiet audience, so we don't have any questions from any of our viewers.
Okay.
So
All
you're
right.
off the hook there.
Okay, well, that's great, although it's kind of fun being able to help people out and hear some of the things that they've gone through and that, but another time.
Our juicer owner does say thank you so much for fixing it up.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's a good machine. It should work well for them. So if that's the case, Sarah, then maybe we'll just let everybody get back to their day.
Enjoy the Black Friday shopping.
Enjoy the Black Friday shopping. Yep. Yep. Try not to wear those credit cards out. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks for our next live. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.